Welcome to Bass Talk, presented by Z-Man, and today we have one of our fan favorites with us again, Mr. DW, David Walker. David, let me tell you something, David. It's standing room only today in the Bass Talk studio. It's nice. Hard to get a seat in here these days, especially when we have you on as a guest.
That's because you're sitting in the only chair in the room.
Good point. Good point. So anyway, you're having a great season so far. It started at the Classic. You had a great Classic, and the first two events of the year, I think you're sitting now in 7th place. You're only 19 points out of Angler of the Year. You've won an Angler of the Year on the FLW side. I'm not sure if you've done it on the Bass side, but I know you'd love to do it this year on the Elite Series. Talk to me a little bit about how things have gone so far, and where we're headed.
I think things are going good. Not outstanding. It's a good solid start. I know I've been probably had worse starts before or better starts, but I think it's a good one. But definitely winning Angler of the Year would be a quite an accomplishment, and I'd love to do that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's talk about the last couple of events. We started out in Florida. Obviously, there was a lot of sight fishing going on down there, and there were some other things going on too. I think you got into a shad spawn in the last tournament that kind of helped you a little bit. Let's talk about that. What baits were important? I know the chatterbait came up. I heard you throwing the chatterbait a little bit on that shad spawn deal. Tell us about how things went in the last couple of events.
Yeah, that was mostly the main pattern was sight fishing when we went to St. John's. Kind of knew it would be, but so I kind of spent most of my time looking for another way to catch one, and because I've never fished a shad spawn in Florida before. That's the first time I ever did that, and the first day it worked out good for me because I caught one almost about 4.5 pounds that first morning in there. So I was just going there just to catch some fish because. In Florida, especially when the light conditions are real low, the water's that tannic kind of a brown color, and you can't see the fish at all. Even if you know he's there, you just cannot see that fish, and so you're kind of just spinning your wheels, hoping to catch something until the sun gets up. So for me, it was just a place to go start and get some fish in a box, and then go look around for big ones because that's how that place works. But the chatterbait. It was part of the deal, and anytime you go to Florida, the chatterbait's going to be part of it. It's just ideally suited for the type of conditions you have down there. And that being said, when it came to the spawning fish, the sight fish, I had Daniel there at Z-Man there run me some pearl white flapping craws. Nice. And it's not a color, you don't see any pearl white craws around. But for a sight fishing deal, that pearl white is ideal. Any color that really stands out, you can see the lure. Sure. It's not so much about making the lure look natural to the fish, because you're just trying to aggravate the fish. So you want to be able to see where the bait is in conjunction. Is it outside the bed? Is it on the bed? And if you use real natural colors and that bait's laying down there, you can't really tell where it is. But that white bait or something that's just a bright color, you can actually see where the bait is positioned and how that fish is reacting to it better. So, the white it's not so much it makes the fish angry or they have something to do with them. It's more about you and you being able to see that bait. That being said, it's being made out of that elastic. And the cool thing about elastic, we talk about it a lot, how it floats. And when you Texas rig that flapping craw, and you drag it along that bed, and you stop it, pause it, to hold it in the bed, the bait actually stands up. It tends to flare up, and the pinchers stand up, and it slowly rises up like that. And all the big fish I caught down there that week, every one of them came on that bait. I had other baits that I would pitch in there as well. I used the little punch craw in a green color or something like that. Just if the bigger bait, they didn't seem to like it, but all the big fish came on that big white flapping craw. And I think that was definitely key, was because I could stop the bait, but when I stopped it, it didn't just lay over and lay on the bottom. it actually slowly stood up. It had this rise to it that those fish reacted on it. It was awesome. It worked so well every time. Nice. All I had to do was find them. Now, if I could find them, I could catch them.
How long did you have to let the bait sit? Did they hit it immediately, or did you have to kind of like finesse them into actually eating the bait, or what was the deal there?
Well, every fish is different, and you got to realize, you know, how far along are they? What are they guarding? Are they just guarding an area, and you kind of can get attuned to that when you first see the fish and how easily he spooks. If they stay there locked on and just kind of stare at you, you're in good position, because that fish, he's ready to fight you. He's definitely going to fight that crawl. So, you know, every one of them is different. The biggest one I caught was a 715, and oddly enough, that fish was on a bed by itself. I don't know where the male was, never saw it. Hackney and I had a conversation. The big one he caught there, the second day, he caught one that was 7 pounds or so. Same deal. He said he found it on a bed by itself, never could find a male, and I was the same way with this one. Fish was a little bit deeper, and the water was it was windy. It was about 1 o'clock, and the wind was blowing a little bit, so there's just enough ripple. I could tell it was a fish. I can tell where she's moving around to, but when she'd move off the bed, I couldn't see her anymore. So the only time I could see her when she was right on the bed. Sure. And that fish bit that crawl in about 10 minutes. Wow. It was the first cast in there. She really reacted good to it. She ran over to it and really, you know, made eye contact with it, chased and followed the bait, would stand up on her tail and just and follow the bait all the way across the bed. And, just put those 2 power poles down and just stand up front and just keep making those repetitive flips. Sure. It's pretty fun when you find a big fish like that, knowing you're going to catch it. Yeah. It's just a matter of time. And, you know, and then when that fish bit, I thought, when I seen it, I thought it was a 5 or 6 pound fish. And then when I set the hook on her, and she actually stripped drag off the flipping stick, I knew it was a lot bigger fish than that. And then she came up and jumped, and me and the marshal with me were both a whole lot of oh my goshes and stuff like that at that point. So it was fun, but you know, to catch those big fish like that, that's just what makes Florida great.
Well, you know, that was an impressive finish, and all the guys who did really well, you know, including Out and of course the sight fishing, because there were a lot of guys that knew that deal going in, and they knew that was you know, probably how this tournament was going to be won. And they all kind of knew the areas to go where these bigger fish are bedding. But it was just a handful of guys who really shined in the event and came through in the end. When you had, you know, the whole field trying to do what you were doing, you know, that was a big accomplishment, and you certainly need to be proud about how you fished down there in that event and came away with another good finish. Let's talk about momentum a little bit and how momentum plays a role in this sport, and both negative and positive momentum. You know, right now you're riding that wave of positive momentum that started at the Classic, but do you believe in momentum? And if so, talk to us a little bit about that and how you kind of capitalize on your positive momentum, and then how do you turn negative momentum where you're having a string of bad events and turn back into trying to get on the positive side and cashing checks and having good finishes?
Well, that's a big question right there, but yeah, definitely momentum has a lot to do with this. You see it all the time. When you get into the mindset that you expect to catch them, you already know you're going to catch them, you do. I have no idea why fish care, but when you're mad at them and you're frustrated, you don't catch anything. But when you're pretty good, feeling good about it, and know you're going to catch one, you get that, you know, you're standing up there and you're really focused on what you're doing because you just know you're about to catch one. I don't know why it works, but it does. You know, it for me right now, it's just we're going into these tournaments, and I feel good about, you know, fishing the elites. I feel good about, you know, the getting back to the Classic and doing well, and just, you know, so for me, it's just about I'm comfortable with where I'm at, and so I know I'm going to make it work. I just know I do. On the other end of that, you can get into that negative where it's just everything you do, you second guess it. You think everything sucks. Oh, this not going to be any good. I don't like this. I don't like that. And you'll see them guys. I mean, I'll talk to them at the tournament. You know, be at the meeting. I can tell who's going to do bad. They're already telling you they're going to do bad. And it's not just the ones that are just lying to you. It's like, oh, I haven't caught anything. You know, you get those, but you get the ones that are just mad about everything. They hate everything. They hate their hotel room. They hate the price of gas. They hate what they had for dinner last night. Yeah, they're gonna suck in that tournament. It's just it's funny how it works like that, but it does. And I mean, you can see the ones that are bouncing through there. They just can't wait for it to get started. They're probably gonna catch them.
That's good. Well, you know, I mean, I believe the same thing too. I know it plays a role. I mean, you can see it where guys get on a string. I mean, even Chris Lane. I mean, he wins the Classic, and then he has a couple big tournaments there afterwards, and makes another run at winning another one. So, it's definitely important. We had some questions come in here from our Z-FanZ. Basil Lansing says, David, what are your best post-spawn tactics?
Post-spawn tactics. Well, that's going to depend on what part of the country we're talking there. You know, post-spawn around in this area, and you know, a lot of the reservoirs and stuff, I really like using topwater baits. I mean, topwater is just it's a fun way to catch some post-spawn fish, especially if you get around a situation where they're either garden fry, you got a few fry garters left, or the water's still a little bit high and they're not quite into the summer pattern yet, and the bluegills start spawning. And fishing around those bluegill beds is just an ideal way to catch some hard-to-catch early summer type fish. And that's probably one of my favorite ones. And you can do it two different ways, with a topwater, or with like probably the best way is just the zinker. Just a weightless worm and just casting it from a distance onto where those bluegills are bedding at. And you're not gonna sit in one spot and catch a bunch of them, but you can literally, if you can find you enough bluegill beds, you can literally catch one off of every one of those.
Sure.
And just by doing that, either throwing in that top water, and I like a prop bait. I think prop baits work better than chuggers at that time of year. Don't know why, they just kind of do. So I'll use a prop bait, or I'll throw that weightless zinker in there and just let it slowly settle down in there. And more times than not, you just watch that line. You're not going to see a bite. You'll just see that line start to speed up or go to one side or the other, and then that's time to set the hook, because you want to set it pretty quick, because they will swallow them things, and then you end up with a dead fish penalty. So
it's not going to help you out any. That's great advice. We've got Wayne Fish, who says, interesting last name, Wayne Fish, says, what is your go-to bait you have the most confidence in? And obviously you fish a lot of baits. You're known, a lot of people think you're just a flipper. We know that's not the case, but what would be your number one confidence bait when all else fails? You're going to go back to this bait because you something you've done well in the past with.
Boy, that's tough to call just one of them, because there's so many different. But I mean, I'd say between a jig and a crankbait, because the versatility of those two baits, because there's so many different styles and applications for them, I'd say one or the other.
So either a jig or a crankbait.
Train going by.
I mean, that's our phone. That's our train. The 10 o'clock train just came by. We're actually the BassTalk studio is a old train depot. So
nice.
Anyway, also we got a question from AJ Ramirez, and he talks about like pre-tournament rituals, how you prepare, anything you do to kind of get ready for any particular tournament that you're fishing.
Oh, boy, you ain't kidding. I got a lot of stuff to get ready before every tournament, I tell you that much. And I do like to have everything, you know, the day before the event, we're getting ready to the tournament. I like to try to take all the non-essential stuff out. That's one of the things I really always focus on, getting all the crap that I'm not going to be using, because during practice, I'll have that boat loaded. And then once it comes tournament time, I like to, all right, this I'm not going to need, this I'm not going to need, this I'm not, get that stuff out of there, clean it out, so like during the day, when you need to find something, you can find it, and you're not digging underneath stuff to find that, because it's so easy, especially as the season goes on, to let that stuff just build up and build up, and you'd be amazed at how much faster your boat goes.
Good deal. Good deal. Now you're headed to Bull Shoals here in the next couple of weeks for the next event, and they've had some weather out there the last month or so. I know the water's been up. It's been, you know, they're probably dropping it a little bit now too. It's a huge fishery, a lot of water to fish. You guys will probably be able to spread out nicely in that event. Are you thinking pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn, everything going on at the same time? And what are you going to look to target going into that particular practice period?
Well, we're going to have to get there and see what they, you know, how far along the fish are, and so I'm kind of expecting having all three stages of fish there. I know we've had a warmer than normal winter this year, but you know, the last couple of days it's been cold here at the house, and I'm sure that's kind of back to normal, really. But when I get up there, I've never fished Bull Shoals. Been on it a couple times, a couple Ranger photo shoots, and that's about it. And but you know, it's going to be a highland reservoir, much like Table Rock, much like Beaver Lake, a lot of lakes around, and even your area, you know, the Lanier. That it's going to be that style of fishery. So never having been there, it's not going to be that important, I don't think, to have a local advantage there, just because those style reservoirs really are real conducive for pattern fishing. Absolutely. Instead of a spot. And so I think it's going to be a guy who establishes a pattern. I don't think you're going to win that place off of a one place where you can sit and catch them. It's not going to be like that. Not a Kentucky Lake type ledge. It's going to be more of a pattern. So it is going to make it fish bigger, which is going to be nice, because when you only got 100 boats to start with and you spread them out on a place like that, you know, it really allows you to, you start running a pattern, you can run here or there, and you're not always running into another boat. So, you know, I'm actually looking forward to getting out there. And, of course, this time of year, the spring, you know, we're going to have some that spring type rains and all. And, you know, I just fished a tournament on Norm last week, the Southern Open. And it was really odd because, you know, I fished a lot of springtime events. And always every year, you know, you'll be out there and the water's kind of cold and you have those big spring storms come in and you have that warm rainwater. Yeah. Well, it's been so warm all winter that the spring storm came in. We had cold rainwater because it was only 40, 50 degrees and raining, but the lake was already in the 70s. So it was a complete reversal of what we normally look for. It's kind of run towards that fresh water coming in. Here you had to run away from it. And so I'm interested to see how warm that lake is when we get out there and those storms come in here, because that part of the country, boy, they get some bad storms and it's real common. And I'm sure next week while we're there, it's a real good chance we're going to have some pretty severe weather come through there. It's just common that time of year. So I'm just curious to see as to how warm the lake is and how those storms will affect it.
I was about to ask you if you had any downtime, because you know you'd have a little break. You were back to back on the Elite Series events, but now you were just over fishing and open on Norman. So there really hasn't been a whole lot of downtime for you. What do you do in these few days that you do have? You're back with family, obviously. What else is going on with David Walker when he has some downtime?
Yeah, it's basically get in, try to unpack all your stuff and read. You know, because what you do in Florida, you're not going to need to do in when you go to Arkansas. So a lot of the baits I took with me there, I got to take it out. A lot of the 8-foot flipping sticks with braid on them, I'm not going to need, so I take that stuff out. You know, it's just kind of reorganize, get ready for the next one. That and the yard was about waist deep, and I had plenty of yard work to do. Got to get that stuff done before you hit the road again.
Well, I'm sure your family is glad to have you back for a few days. And
oh yeah, definitely. It's nice to be. Like the old saying goes, "There's no place like home." I mean, you can't wait to get home. You sleep so much better. I think that first night I probably slept about 10 hours. You know, you just killed.
But it seems like everywhere that we go on tour, on both of the tours, it's, you know, you got crappy hotels, crappy food. Everybody thinks, well, hey, I want to go out and be a professional bass fisherman, but they really don't know how bad it actually is on the road. So
no, it can be quite a trying part of it. Many times the best part of the whole event is when you're on the lake. You almost hate to come in because where you got to stay and all the nerves that go with that.
But, worried about getting bed bugs. So
yeah, I know it. Yeah, I'm not getting any bites on the lake, but boy, I'm getting eat up every night. Yeah.
Oh Lord. Well, David, it's been great having you again as a guest on Bass Talk. We wish you the best of luck out at Bull Shoals, and we'll look forward to catching back up with you again after that tournament.
All right, thanks, Jason.
Thank
Take care, and I'll see you guys and pretty soon.
See you in a couple weeks. All right, man.